Good day, I'm Marina Kim, and these are the latest news from Kazakhstan. Fancy funeral. High-ranking officials followed Nazarbayev's assistant Vladimir Ni to his grave in Almaty. Resisting to return home, wives of arrested refugees launched a hunger strike protesting against extradition of their husbands to Uzbekistan. The ruling Nuratan party suggests to employ a lie-buster against corruption among state officials. Wives of Uzbek refugees were picketing the building of the Almaty city prosecutor's office yesterday, demanding not to deport their husbands to Uzbekistan. 30 arrested men accused in political crimes in Uzbekistan are detained in Almaty. Last Friday, it became known that one of the refugees was already extradited, while the rest are held at the Internal Affairs Department and National Security Agency detention centers. The Almaty prosecutor's senior assistant who commented the situation was rather stiff in his position.
Do you know that our husbands are hunger striking? We do. Why do you do nothing then? What should we do? Total 30 persons were detained in Almaty during the migrant operation. Interestingly, all of the detainees hold the UN mandate, a document that grants its holders with refugee status and guaranteeing a political asylum. However, on August 21st, the Almaty Migration Department had rejected the status to all who applied for it, which was called illegal nonsense by human rights defenders. Kazakhstan had ignored its obligations under the UN Civil Rights Pact. Meanwhile, the authorities insist that all of the detainees are under the extradition arrest and will be deported to Uzbekistan. We operate with official documents on international regulations and also documents received by the Uzbek law enforcement authorities. We have arrested them in line with the Convention on Legal Aid, Legal Relations on Civil, Family and Criminal Cases as of 1993. Both Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan have signed the given convention and therefore we must fulfill our international obligations.
Kazakhstan's authorities are violating the rights of its citizens for housing. Such conclusion was made by the UN Special Rapporteur Raquel Rolnik from Geneva after the meeting with a group of protesting interest holders. The UN official had spent almost a week in Astana. At the end of her trip, she called the controversial state decree which imposed citizens' state ownership rights as an awkward document and urged the authorities to withdraw and reconsider it shortly. In the meantime, Rolnik called the hunger strike of interest holders as nothing but a desperation act.
Kazakh authorities continuously violate the rights of Kazakh citizens for housing. It was stated by the UN Special Rapporteur Raquel Rolnik yesterday. However, they are trying to fix the problems, added Rolnik, who has spent almost a week in Kazakhstan, which seemed enough term to call the scandalous decree imposing state ownership rights as an awkward document. UN official called for the government to withdraw and reconsider it shortly.
More transparency.
Больше транспарентности.
More information provided to everybody on an equal basis.
Rolnik has called the hunger strike of interest holders as nothing but a desperate act. She has visited the protesting interest holders in order to learn their problems from the first hand. The action participants said they are totally ignored by the government for already 2 months. Also, they said the courts make biased decisions on their claims, thus ignoring the international laws ratified by Kazakhstan. Our courts say they are of recommendation manner, and when we asked Raquel why our country doesn't implement and apply them, she said it was obviously wrong. In response to the Kazakh authorities' promise to allocate $120 million to settle the housing problem, Raquel Rolnik said this is not sufficient amount for that matter. In any case, Kazakh government will receive the conclusions and recommendations of the UN representatives only by the spring next year, when Rolnik will present the report on her trip to Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, she had only suggested to Kazakh officials to create a group of national level involving civil society members to hold a dialogue between the society and authorities.
Vladimir Ni, one of President Nazarbayev's close friends and his personal assistant, was followed to his grave by high-ranking officials in Almaty on Sunday. A big delegation of state officials came from Astana to commemorate their late colleague, including one who has been out of public sight for some time. Next report has more.
A funeral of one of the most influential officials, president's assistant and the head of the Hozu Corporation, Vladimir Ni, was held in Almaty. Almost all high-ranking officials came to the funeral of president's shadowed assistant and also a close friend. Amongst others, there were Astana City Mayor Imangalitas Magambetov, the Parliament Speaker Kasım-Jomart Tokayev, President's Special Representative in Kyrgyzstan Bulat Utimuratov, and the head of the National Security Agency Nurtay Bakayev. Actually, he could have passed away back in 1993, but then Nazarbayev had literally made him to go for a surgery. He lost almost half of his stomach then, and operations repeated several times after. Despite the media's expectation, President, who is considered to be one of the late official's closest friends, didn't appear in the funeral. Almaty City Mayor Ahmedjan Yesimov had told that Nazarbayev had visited the family for the deceased on the eve of the funeral. The head of the Kazakh Mys had emphasized on the Ni's contribution in Korean diaspora in Kazakhstan. Yesterday, Nazarbayev passed the words to Korean diaspora, saying clearly that if there was no Vladimir, the ethnic Koreans would have lived like this in Kazakhstan as now. Amongst the participants of the funeral, there were some people who were no longer associated with the government. Ex-Defense Minister Daniel Akhmetov, who has been out of the sight for already 1.5 years after the corruption scandal in the ministry. It was actually his first appearance in the public ever since, which came along with the rumors about his new appointment. It is such a tremendous loss. Vladimir Ni was buried in the Almaty City Central Cemetery. After the burial ceremony, all of the high-ranking guests proceeded to the commemoration lunch, where journalists weren't allowed. It seemed just right, as the inner circle of officials, which the late Vladimir Ni was part of, must have things to keep away from public.
In line with Vladimir Ni funeral, an event to commemorate famous oppositional politician Altunbek Sarsenbayev was held in Almaty. Public activists, along with political party and movement members, organized memorial climb on the mountain route which used to be late Sarsenbayev's favorite. An emerging leader and bright politician would have turned 48 on September 12th if 4 years ago wasn't murdered on this very route. Our reporter was amongst 100 people climbing the distance between two big and small Almata rivers.
He was going to do it just before he was killed. It was on Friday, but he wanted on Saturday. How often he would come here? Very often, 1 or sometimes twice a week, as soon as he had free time. This is Altunbek Sarsenbayev's favorite route. He used to love walking here on weekends. Today this path was passed by the democratic community of Kazakhstan. The amateur climbing in commemoration of the bright politician who would have turned 48 was held on Sunday morning. Our association supports this. It's not an easy climb, but very symbolic to Kazakhstan. Altunbek Sarsenbayev had served as the Security Council Secretary, the Information and Press Minister under several governments, as well as an ambassador of Kazakhstan to Russia. A day prior to his death, he was going to get on this route. In the foothills of the Zail-Alato mountains, the official, along with his driver and bodyguard, were found dead in winter of year 2006. All the fellows, independent experts and relatives called the murder as politically motivated. The Senate Chief of Staff, Erjan Utembayev, was found guilty for ordering the murder and was sentenced to 20 years, while its executor, Rustam Ibragimov, was sentenced to death penalty. I already miss him. He had a special place in politics of Kazakhstan. This decision was for sure made by both his friends and enemies. Relatives and party fellowmen demanded to hold a new investigation after the book titled The Godfather-in-Law by President's ex-son-in-law was published. Rahat Aliyev states in the book the names of supposed paymasters of the murder. However, the investigations weren't relaunched, while the rumors about the highest-ranking officials' involvement in the case continue spreading.
Referring to unofficial sources, fellowman of the oppositionist Aidos Sadikov claimed that National Security Agency is preparing new provocations against him. According to him, the cell in which Sadikov is detained was equipped with audio and video recording devices. The information was confirmed by human rights activist Vadim Kuramshin during a press conference yesterday. Kuramshin had just created a new public organization called Countermeasure to Tyranny, within the framework of which undertake the Sadikov's case as a first thing. Next report has more.
Human rights defender Vadim Kuramshin is going to present controversial documents and facts regarding the convicts and political prisoners' rights violations to the chairman of the UN Human Rights Committee, Manfred Novak, in October. In order to avoid possible provocations and get to Europe safely, he intends to leave Kazakhstan as soon as possible. We had a phone conversation with Novak. He's ready for a meeting and is informed that in case if something happens with Vadim, if he will be killed, beaten, arrested or anything, these documents will be passed on him immediately. Kuramshin is going to file a claim about his 10-day detention, because of which he couldn't meet with the EU Parliament members. Moreover, he is going to take a big volume of files on the regional oppositionist Aidos Sadikov's case. The latter was sentenced to 2 years with hooliganism charges this summer. Kuramshin intends to prove that Sadikov is a victim of a provocation. Even in the colony where he will serve his term, provocations are anticipated. The secret services have launched a special equipment to monitor Sadikov. The presence of this equipment as per se is a provocation, since it may cause discontent by other inmates who will blame Aidos Sadikov for its appearance. Sadikov's spouse Natalia Yeshanova also speaks about the pressuring of the authorities. A pregnant woman claims she often gets calls threatening her and demanding to stop the public campaigns in support of her husband. She cannot get a date arranged with her husband and is waiting to the end of the quarantine. So far, I failed to get an appointment to see him, but I am going to do that soon. Considering the fact that I am in the last month of pregnancy, I would want to see him more often, as I really am in need of his moral support. Leaving Kazakhstan, Kuramshin had found, together with his fellows, a new public organization called Countermeasure to Tyranny, the main goal of which is to protect the rights of both political and regular prisoners in the Kazakh jails.
The raiding of the Kometa S publishing house case has still not been resolved. Its director Yulia Kozlova, after unjust, as she says, trials, decided to appeal to the parliament. Kozlova had forwarded 113 letters, petitions to members of the parliament asking to help her company survive the political games. 1 year ago, the company was subjected for a search by the tax inspection agency and the workshop was shut down. After several court proceedings, the judge had made a decision in favor of the tax inspection.
A week ago, businesswoman Yulia Kozlova had forwarded 113 letters to members of the Kazakh parliament in hope that they will employ their main mission to assist and protect the interests of their electorate and help a small business to survive political challenges. The reason why I didn't appeal to the president is, first of all, he is sitting far away and the parliamentarians are elected by us, and plus they often speak about the small and medium businesses, and our enterprise belongs to this category. I believe only they can help us, because we have gone through all other instances already. The company is also planning to appeal to the Entrepreneurs Association for assistance and is collecting necessary documents at the moment. According to its lawyer Sergei Utkin, it's important to knock on all the possible doors in order to help the publishing house. Just recently, a claim was filed stating the falsifications of documents by the claimants established during the last trial regarding the market prices. The letter describing the violations was forwarded to the parliament. Such prejudice attitude towards the Kometa S from one hand and a presidential case confirmed by the court decision from another, meaning that tax inspection agents can use the shame to any other enterprises. We have informed the parliamentarians about such risk and asked for assistance. In the end of September last year, the Kometa S publishing house was raided just before the print of the Respublika newspaper's new edition. The financial police had then immediately confiscated the documents and computers of the company, and the print workshop was shut down and put on a 24/7 security control. A criminal case on alleged financial speculations was instigated against the company's director. Almost a year passed since the case was filed, but there is still no progress. However, the publishing house workers really hope for fair outcome and goodwill of the authorities.